Hello and welcome back to the latest episode of the CGA Tour podcast. As always, here I'm your host, Calvin Glen Alexander, host of the CGA Tour podcast here. And I'm rejoined and welcoming on Alexi Bollwerk, frequent friend of the podcast here, fellow Oklahoma State alum, fellow Oklahoma State athletics employee at some form or fashion, I'm sure. But really fellow Oklahoma City Thunder intern at one point with me and fellow do-it-all. So, Alexi, how's it going?
Oh, it's going well. Great to be on a podcast again with you. Always good to talk OSU sports or just whatever. It's always good to be on here and talking over the podcast.
Well, yeah. Well, hey, thanks so much for joining. In case you missed the title here, of course, we're going to talk through some Oklahoma State football, some Oklahoma State basketball here, and basically do an offseason wish list of sorts for football and then talk about some basketball and how much either of us would love or hate to play against or on a Steve Let's State. But first, asking about football here. So right now, the fun part about football is that it's much different than last year, because if it was the same thing as last year, if we had Alan Bowman still on the roster, probably would be feeling a little different. We had the same offensive linemen, probably feeling a little different. Same defensive guys, all 1 through 11, probably feeling a little different. Not necessarily saying all bad, because you know what you'd rather have than freshmen is some experience. But with all that being said, Zane Flores, redshirt sophomore, coming back. Hejny coming in TCU-wise with our new offense coordinator, Meacham, and Rangel, both redshirt big guys, but Rangel's a redshirt junior, and then Malachi Smith is a redshirt freshman. So all these guys have redshirted, and now we're ready to see some action here. In your mind, what's your kind of like favorite Oklahoma State football scheme that we've played so far? Like, which era of Oklahoma State football would you like us and kind of have on a wish list of, hey, I hope we can get back to this kind of style of football?
Yeah, absolutely. It has to get back to the running gun. You're throwing the ball 50, 60 times a game in a way. Like, you just got to get back to, you're not giving the defense enough time to get set up. That's Oklahoma State football. It was weird to see these past couple of years, the run the ball a lot, throw quick passes, kind of get up to the line, maybe seem like you're going to go quick, but you're really not. I just feel like the style of play, I'm not saying obviously that's the reason why we have been bad. I think there's a lot of other reasons. We all know Oklahoma State football hasn't been as great as we would have liked the last couple of years, but I think that's where we've shown our best. The year with Brandon Whedon took them to the Fiesta Bowl and beat Stanford. We saw how dynamic that offense was. And of course, it all starts with having the players for that. But also the Rudolph years. The Rudolph years had a lot of that fun excitement. You're going to, make the defense be on their tiptoes. They're not going to be able to just get back and relax. They got to be ready for the next play. So I think that's Oklahoma State football. It seems like that's the Gundy style for the most part. I don't know what really shifted to this new approach that they've taken the last couple of years, but yeah, we got to get back to that, throwing the ball a lot of time during this game, just doing the right things at the right time, but fast pace of play is what I think Oklahoma State needs to get back to.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think one of the things we could really look for an Oklahoma State football team is just, well, we got a bunch of new offensive linemen coming in. I mean, last year was such a, hey, we're running it back. Like, what was the problem with going 10-4? We beat the crap out of Texas A&M in a bowl game. We made it to the Big 12 championship game. Of course, got our butts handed to us by Texas. But then again, they were kind of running the conference in 2024 or 2023, excuse me. So, and then we forced forward to last year. It was like, okay, we didn't do great. You shouldn't do great overall. So now we know there's a whole new scheme in place. What else can we do differently? With a bunch of new offensive linemen, I would think we are going to do exactly what you said. Just, hey, you know what? Shredden and whoever else, just run as fast as you can on the field. Like, we're going to basically try to throw the balls up like we had with Mason Rudolph to James Washington. Just kind of, hey, can you run under it real well? Are you able to track the ball in space? Do all that type of stuff. Because if we're not able to do that, it's not going to be that great. But if we are able to do that, that'll open up the running game a little bit, because we also do not have Ollie Gordon rejoining us. That is the one major thing. Ollie Gordon made headlines at the Senior Bowl. He recovered a fumble. He also passed for a touchdown. And he was a quarterback a little bit in high school, I understand. But he's he showed up at the Senior Bowl and really, I think, put everyone on notice of, hey, you guys had this guy last year and you didn't win a conference game? Like, what happened? And that makes me really worried. I don't think there's any ifs, ands, buts about it. That makes me go, Sessivilahi, Trent Howland, what are we doing? You know, I mean, we've got a guy who transferred in here from OU just down the road a little bit. And that's a great deal as well, too. I mean, anytime we can get an OU guy in Caleb Hicks, he's from Texas, but, you know, still get him on the roster. Always going to be happy about that. We've got Rodney Fields Jr. who saw us at the field a little bit last year, too. So it's not all like fresh guys in the running back group. But, man, it'll be a drop-off there. And I wonder how we're going to be able to have some wide receiver help here with bunch of wide receivers on the roster, but not a lot of them that I'm looking back at going, oh, yeah, I remember that guy last year because, I mean, Sam Jackson the fifth, I remember him, but that's because he threw a touchdown pass against us when he was a quarterback playing for TCU some time ago because he since has transferred to Cal, Auburn, and now Oklahoma State and changed whole positions. So there's a lot of guys here where I'm going, hey, is this the year Shredden as a redshirt junior just takes off? Just takes off. He's 6'2". He's a big wide receiver. Is this the year that Josh Ford and more of the tight ends kind of really figure it out? Coming as a sophomore, he played a lot last year too. And I thought the guy from Miami, Ohio was going to play a lot last year. And instead it was Josh Ford as a freshman coming in from down literally across the street almost in Stillwater High. Seeing a lot of playing time for Oklahoma State, scoring touchdown against Arkansas, etc. So of the quarterbacks we have, seems like there's a couple things here and there. But we've only seen one guy really play minutes last year at the end. Of course, we saw Rangel play in the BYU game, but man, he didn't make it a whole half, unfortunately. So what did you see out of Smith last year? Do you think there's some hope there? Because I'd love to talk more about Rangel, but honestly, we've seen him just bits and pieces, and for the minutes we saw last year, it looked great. But then he gets injured. So what do you think about Smith?
Yeah, man, Smith, I think it's hard to really truly evaluate how he was because I just didn't think we were good. We didn't have a team. We didn't have a good team. There's O-line problems. I mean, Gordon just wasn't as efficient this year as he was last year. It just didn't seem like he was put into the right situation. And I think it was kind of in a desperate way we had to put him in. So I don't know if it's really fair to say, because I right now, just from what I saw, I didn't love it. I didn't love what I saw. I thought there just wasn't anything promising about it. But the more I thought about it after the season, I was like, well, was he really even put into the right situation? The team was just trending downward. Every loss just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And then it ended horribly on that Colorado game. So to me, it's a little tough to really truly say, yeah, he has some potential, or no, I don't think so. I just think the situation he was put in, there's not enough there for it. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, from what I saw, there's not really anything good I saw from this offense all year. It just hurts. It hurts to say that because this is an Oklahoma State program who usually doesn't have these issues. They don't have these type of programs or these type of down years. That it's so hard that you can't even watch the game for bits and pieces. So yeah, I think I'd like to see a little bit more from him, maybe in a new system or whatever they're trying to transition to the next year. I'd like to see more because I can't truly say, yeah, he's the right guy or no, he's not. So that would just be my personal opinion on Smith.
Yeah, he's a guy who threw for less than 500 yards. I mean, granted, his completion percentage is a little bit less than 60%, 59.5. His average completion is 6.6 yards. Bowman's in comparison is 7.1. Now, their quarterback ratings for the whole season, their sacks, their all type of stuff here really is just not, just not comparative. I mean, yeah, of course, like they're both going to lose yards getting sacks, but like, we're over here saying Brandon Presley's rating as a quarterback is 564. Like, I'm not trying to put every single stat into context here and trying to get, what we can take away from here is we can take away the fact that the longest pass that Malachi Smith had last year was 35 yards, but Rangel's was 43. Like, I'm not trying to be that guy is that putting too much into this because it was just such a different team last year. It was almost as though something happened in the locker room after the third game where we beat Tulsa. Now, I guess we're just going to run the conference, kind of like we did last year. And it's like, well, you look back at that 2023 season, we barely escaped against BYU. We barely escaped against several other teams here. And yeah, we beat OU, but it wasn't all gravy after that. We still had to win some games, and that UCF game is hard to get out of my head when I look back at 2023 and then I see 2024. It's like, man, that was a precursor for sure. 2022, the K-State game, 48-0. Also, real big bummer. So Gundy's had some head scratchers like that, but now he has to be, with this whole contract being reworked, he has to be way more involved in the recruitment. He's already been out scouting guys, recruiting in the state of Oklahoma, going to high school visits and stuff, and it's being publicized more on social media. Was it not happening last year? Honestly, I don't know. But this year we know for sure it's happening, and we know for sure he's out there, and also part of his contract demands that. So I'm really excited to see that. And on the quarterback side of it, Malachi Smith, I always want to say Milwaukee, the way his name's spelled, but Malachi Smith, he's 6'4", 185. Zane Flores, who has yet to take a snap, is also 6'4" on the Oklahoma State depth chart, 205. Does that mean Zane Flores being 20 pounds heavier is less mobile? I doubt it, honestly. I don't want to try to, again, be that guy who's mincing all of this together here. But I would love to see, hey, Zane Flores, who was the best recruit of the state of Nebraska the year that he came to Oklahoma State, is he the real deal? Like, he had a foot issue that had been plaguing him for years. He probably was going to have surgery on during an offseason. And last year he said, you know what, let's go get surgery now because Bowman's going to start the rest of the year. And then all of a sudden, Bowman starts, he gets a surgery. Well, okay, well, then it's Rangel, because Rangel's second on the depth chart. Maybe Flores would have seen it if he had been second, but he wasn't. Then Rangel gets injured. Then all of a sudden you're moving to Smith because you got to do something different. And that 50-0 game does stick out as like, it only hurts Smith, which sucks. The guy's not from Texas or Oklahoma. You bring in a new offensive coordinator who is from Oklahoma and has ties to Oklahoma State, of course, former Oklahoma State guy. And then he just came from TCU. So is Smith going to look at the door to transfer? Is he going to be seeing stuff here in April when the transfer portal opens up again? That window opens up April 16th. And I'm really curious here because we are playing a spring practice of sorts, is whatever anyone wants to call it. It's not a game. Apparently, Gundy just hates using the word spring game. But that opens up April 16th and it's open until April 26th. So if one of these four guys does not see the field in that time window, one, maybe they're injured. But two, and what I think would be most likely is whichever of the four guys doesn't see the field is the guy who's going to be looking to transfer. He's going to enter the portal. And the funniest thing about the transfer portal overall is that you can enter the portal all the way up until the deadline. There's some exceptions where you can enter after the deadline. And then you can just stay in that sucker as long as you want to. And then just decide to go, hey, you know what? Didn't need to be in the portal. Like, it's almost like an NIL grab. It's almost it's almost one of these NBA players just withholding. Like, hey, you know what? Well, I'll enter the portal and see what else is out there. And then if you don't have that big of a pull or big of a reach, you go, yeah, coming back. But I think you're always coming back with tilt between your legs or maybe for some more NIL money or whatever. But which one of these four quarterbacks is going to have more passing yards this year than Alan Bowman did last year? Because Bowman had 340 attempts. He had almost 2,500 yards passing. It was 2,423. Clearly not good enough. And which one of these guys is going to be able to play kind of a style that fits Oklahoma State? I personally would love to see, as a wish list, would love to see us get back to the Whedon to Blackman, Rudolph to Washington kind of days, because I think you're right. I think that is the way that we've seen Oklahoma State win. This Spencer Sanders way just really puts your quarterback in harm's way. Gets you injured a little bit here and there and just doesn't look that great. From the offensive style perspective, which guy have you liked the most going through Oklahoma State that you've seen so far? Like, going back as far as you want to. Zach Robinson even? I mean, yeah. What's been your favorite Oklahoma State quarterback to watch?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to not say Brandon Whedon. I mean, that guy can just sling it. And that duo, him and Blackman, was just so fun to watch. And he just had a freaking arm, man. So it's hard not to say Whedon. I would have liked to see Rudolph be somewhat of a more, I know he's not that style of quarterback as a runner, because he also played really well in the pocket. He's more of a pocket passer. Not going to give you a lot of yards on the ground, but I feel like in college, you need that. You need that combination of being able to run the ball when you need to, at the very least. You don't need to go run the ball 12 to 15 times a game like some of these dual threat quarterbacks do. But I feel like you need to have some type of running game as a quarterback at the college level. It's just the way it is now. That's why you saw Jaden Daniels win the Heisman a couple years ago. You can do both. Now, obviously, not everybody can be Jaden Daniels, but I just feel like that's the way college football is pretty much played right now. So we probably need to find a style of quarterback in that way. Sanders kind of did that for us. I wish he could have been a better passer at times. His accuracy, he lacked the accuracy quite a bit, but I feel like he got better as his career went along. And he, of course, was able to run the ball when he needed to as well. So, yeah, I think there's a nice combination of all the quarterbacks we've had, but at the end of the day, we're going to need to find someone who can do both. And it's just got to be, you can't have a guy like Alan Bowman out there who can just throw the ball. He has absolutely no time to run the ball. He just can't. There's nothing to it. So, yeah, that's just a little bit of a spin on what I was sharing with those guys, though.
Yeah, there were so many times where we just saw Bowman just eat it. Just either take a sack or just throw the ball away or throw it into the ground right at the running back's gate because nothing was set up. Like by the time he had pressure, it was just in his face. And I'm really hoping to see the offensive line block better, just overall. And if that's scheming these guys a little better, great. If that's a little bit different because, hey, the difference between Dunn to Meacham is such that we go, hey, you know what? This offense does look incredibly different. But I just don't think that's going to be the case, to be honest. I think at the end of the day, this is going to be a Gundy offense that runs however Gundy wants to run it. He brought in one of his guys, a previous Oklahoma State guy, for the offense. And then on the other side of the ball, in defense, he brought in Grantham, who he heard great things about. He's on record as saying, yeah, I brought him in because people only had good things to say about him. And because he's just going to let him do his thing. Like, he's just going to go, hey, you know what? Whatever you want to do. Cool. Sounds great. You do your thing over there. I'll do my thing over here. And if he's doing his thing over here, then that means he's controlling the offense too, in my book. That just doesn't mean that Meacham has a bunch more to do about it. When I'm looking back at the Oklahoma State quarterbacks that I can really remember. I mean, great. Born in 93. I'm not really remembering the Tony Jones or the Tony Lindsays, who are 11th and 8th on the quarterback depth chart here of passing yards all time for Oklahoma State. I'm remembering Zach Robinson, though, pretty well. And I have a trivia question for you and any of the listeners here as well. Who played in more games, Zach Robinson or Spencer Sanders? Granted, Sanders 2019 to 2022, and Robinson was 06 to 09.
Wow. Good question. I don't know the answer, but I will give my best guess. I'm going to say, and I feel like Sanders played a lot for us. I'm going to say Sanders. Give me Sanders.
So it is a trick question here because that's what I would think as well. I would think Sanders, he's second all time in passing yards, Oklahoma State history. He played, it seemed like, for forever. I mean, he had all 6 years kind of availability. He was playing for forever. But he didn't play at all during Taylor Cornelius' year. And it's actually Robinson. Robinson played 45 games. Sanders played 43 games. The amount of attempts here, though, is absolutely staggering. Sanders threw the ball 1,253 times. Robinson threw it 999 times. So you're talking about percentage-wise here, completions.
Big time.
They're tied. They're tied at 61.1% completion percentage. And yet Sanders threw the ball, I'm rounding a little bit here, but basically 250 more times. I mean, it's insane that was the deal here. And Sanders had 67 touchdowns through the air. Robinson had 66. So we think about Zach Robinson as next offensive coordinator for Oklahoma State or next head coach for Oklahoma State. Remember those times very fondly. But Robinson beat OU once. No, not when he was QB. But he definitely propelled the Oklahoma State program to a spot where when Brady Lee comes in, we're in a good spot and able to play from there. I will put my stamp on it and just say my favorite quarterback to watch was definitely Rudolph because that's the one with OSU. Bias. I can't put the bias completely out of my head here. So I love the Rudolph to Washington. I'm still shocked James Washington did not catch on in the NFL as like the playmaker of sorts. He played for the Steelers, and they had Roethlisberger, and then of course it just kind of fell off after an injury. I mean, he was on the Saints depth chart for a little bit, Dallas Cowboys depth chart. Now he's doing something. But love to see James Washington. Welcome back to the Oklahoma State program as a 2-time Blitnikoff Award winner here. The open arms here, hopefully very soon. Now, I want to ask you about defensively here. Oklahoma State brings in a ton of guys on the defense here and transfers. Brings in a guy as you can probably tell you're from the lighting a little bit. Not normally in my normal space. That's why I have the AirPods in as well, too. I'm actually out west here visiting family. But a guy who was out west here in UCLA, came to Oklahoma State here, is Jordan Davies, and he's on the corner. He's one of the corners here. We've got a couple other guys here on the corner side as well, too. And I'm really excited to see what this Oklahoma State defense looks like. What's been your best memories of Oklahoma State defensively? I mean, it's got to be Jim Knowles, right? It's dumb to say it's not.
Yeah, it's hard not to say Jim Knowles. That was such a fun defensive year, especially for how Oklahoma State is not, no, they're not known to be that defensive team. And I don't think really any Big 12 team is even supposed to be remotely close to that style or that good of a defense. I mean, that defense in 21?
Yeah.
My gosh, that's why we were so good. I mean, the offense was good too. It balanced out. It's fine. But imagine if we had one of those Rudolph years or just a Brandon Whedon year, one of those offensive seasons where we were like historically good and you mixed it with that defense. Like it was crazy. It was really fun to watch. And I think you can only pick that year because, man, every other year we're a team that's averaging, 30 points allowed, I would say. We're not a good defensive school. And, you want to see us get better and improve in that in those areas. How do you do that? I don't know. You got to get the right personnel, of course. You got to get the right coaches. You have to have the right schemes, the right styles. Whatever Jim Knowles did, clearly he had the right thing going on. But yeah, man, that was such a fun season with how good they were defensively. And it was very refreshing to have a defense because, and I told you this in my last podcast, it makes me want to pull my hair out because almost every time there's a 3rd and 15 or even more than that, I know it's coming. I know a first down is coming for the other team. So we didn't have a lot of those under the Jim Knowles, but yeah, we just got to get back, man. We got to get back to being just somewhat of a capable defense. And I know the Big 12 is not known for it, as I said, but got to be better. And Jim Knowles' year was a lot of fun.
Well, I have my answer here, and just to back up your point here, Jim Knowles brings in another trivia question here. So we're just high on the trivia here knowledge. But do you want to take a guess? Maybe you remember here right before we started recording, I asked you already. How many players in total does Oklahoma State have on an NFL roster, reserve or active? Yeah, great. We've got the Super Bowl coming up here this weekend, but how many players do you think Oklahoma State has?
Like in total in the NFL?
Yeah, in the total in the NFL, reserve or active roster. Yeah.
12.
Well, it's 17. And that number definitely shocked me a little bit. Now, I am talking about a couple guys here who are on the, like I said, you're on any roster. So there are a couple guys here who are, Tate Martin is 3rd string Z receiver for the Titans. So he's not starting, he's not really seeing the field, but he is on the reserve roster. What is insane to me is that you've got guys like Jason Taylor II, who's playing for the Chiefs. You've got guys like Devin Harper, who's playing for the Steelers. You've also got guys like Amen Ogmongomiga, who's playing for the Bears. He got turned away from my Chargers, sadly. But
I have a quick question. Not to cut you off, but I just thought of him and I can't remember. Is Trey Flowers still in the NFL? Defensive guy?
Yes, I did.
I remember him with the Bengals, but it's been a couple of years, and I feel like I don't know. Is he still in it? That's my trivia question to you.
I don't see it. I don't see him on there. Yeah, no, I don't think so. I'm looking at the list here. I don't see Flowers.
According to Wikipedia, now take this with a grain of salt. Wikipedia is not the most trusted source of all time. I'm seeing here on October 29th, 2024, Flores signed with the Indianapolis Colts practice squad, was released on November 21st, and then re-signed to the practice squad 4 days later. So a little bit, maybe.
And I would like to say, I'm also going off of ourlads.com. So also could have some inaccurate information. Like, I'm not trying to say ourlads.com is the place to go for your Oklahoma State NFL roster criteria. I mean, it's possible this is not a website that is mainly blue and orange, and it's called Our Lads. It's possibly not businessfiring.com. So, Marshall, we'll need an updated NFL list here. Point being, though, is named off all these guys here. I mean, you've got Michael Rodriguez, etc. All these guys played for Jim Knowles, and 4 guys who play defense were on that 2021 team. Now, not all got drafted in 2021. Of course, you've got AJ Green, who got drafted in 2020. I'm not counting him, but I am counting Jason Taylor, who got drafted in 2023. He saw some amazing minutes here. I'm counting Tyler Lacey as well, too, here. But there are so many guys. There are 9 guys from that 2021 team that were on that team that are currently in the NFL out of 17 for Oklahoma State. So, I mean, yeah, I'm talking about Emmanuel Ogbah. He's the guy we're counting here. Anthony Goodlow is the one guy of 2024. He's also being counted here, but not towards that 9 number that I counted of the 9 of 17. So, yes, my favorite time watching Oklahoma State football defensively was the Jim Knowles era. And it was really, wow, in the Big 12 championship, we're going to hold Baylor to as little as we did because we were in that game all the way till the end. That's why there will always be we had the ball 7 times at the 1 yard line and couldn't punch it in for a touchdown to win the game. But the reason why we always talk about that is because the defense put us in that spot to be there. So I really hope this defense can do the same thing kind of Jim Knowles defenses are known for doing. One, not playing a 3-3-5 defense, which we'll see what Grantham likes to do. He has not ran that previously at Florida, but it's been a while since he's been doing college ball. He came from the Saints, of course, here most recently. So we'll see what he wants to do here, especially with the defensive core that he seems to be in process of reworking. There's a lot of guys here that are coming from Power 5 schools, or Power 4, I guess I should say now, schools coming to this Oklahoma State team transferring in that are going to be able to see minutes. So that's really good here as well, too. But, man, that 2021 team was loaded. We're talking Jalen Warren. I can just keep going here. I mean, so many good memories. Josh Sills, got drafted in 2022, or he was a free agent in 2022 that got signed to the Colts. But, man, just a lot of great guys on those teams here. But I would love to see more of the Jim Knowles defense. And we just saw the defense play in the national championship. And then, of course, he goes and signs for Penn State to be their DC, which is just an odd thing overall. And it brings me to kind of my biggest point of this whole deal is still very annoying that Jim Knowles, we weren't able to just figure out the difference in salary. Like, he married a girl from Oklahoma. There were rumors floating around he was going to go coach at OU under Venables, all because his wife really didn't want to leave the state and really wanted to stay home. Now, of course, he's going to Penn State, and he's coaching at Penn State. So something happened there, and some difference happened, and $3.5 million can do a lot of different things for a lot of different people. So shout out to Jim Knowles there. But that was my favorite defense to watch. It's just really a bunch of guys who seem to truly embrace that Oklahoma State, bend, don't break mentality. And like he said, last year, in the year before, we were breaking every single time. 3rd and 15, they're probably going to figure it out how to get a first down. Probably going to see a guy open, get a first down. I don't remember that being the Oklahoma State offense for a while of, hey, 3rd and 15, we're not out of it. And last year, we were completely out of it. So there's just no way. Speaking of previous Oklahoma State teams, though, here, would you rather us have Blitnikoff award-winning guys or Doak Walker award-winning guys? Rather have better running backs or rather wide receivers for your favorite version of Oklahoma State as kind of a wish list here?
I got to go Blitnikoff for sure. The years of Washington, and that's crazy to me that he never, transitioned to the NFL and was even in the league for that long. He never really made too much of an impact. I don't know what the reasons are behind it, but not to get into it. Yes, Blitnikoff for me. We've brought out so many great receivers. It's a lot of fun. I mean, even though he only lasted a year with us and didn't finish his college career. Tyreek Hill was part of Oklahoma State. It was a lot of fun to watch his 1 year when we had him. Of course, Des Bryant, Blackman, just so many fun guys that I can go back and watch, and I can say, yeah, I can never get tired of watching these guys run their routes and make the big catches when they need to. So, yeah, for me, it's Blitnikoff. Of course, I love a good running back and a guy who can carry the team when needed to, but Blitnikoff for me.
And the best passing offense last year was Syracuse, followed by Ole Miss, followed by Miami, and then we have a couple schools here that North Texas and San Jose State, but then Colorado, LSU, you got TCU, Texas Tech, Southern Cal. It's not too far here before we get to the Georgias at 12, Oregon's 13, Texas at 14. All this to say, Ohio State here, champions, 29th overall. Oklahoma State actually here in yards per game is not too far down here. We're 30th. But all this to say here, I would much rather have a better passing than rushing yards, because rushing yards at the end of the day, like, yeah, you got some schools up here that are definitely have some good names. Of course, Ashton Genty and Cam Scottaboo, but the actual teams with all those rushing yards didn't do too well at the end of the day. And then the high scoring offenses, those were mainly guys here, got Notre Dame and others, Boise State's also one of them here, but all teams that did really, really well. And I think that's where you can have a team do really, really well from one year to the next. Now, I would have much rather Ollie Gordon he's getting rumored of being drafted in the top 10, because he's that can't miss kind of a guy. I think he could be that can't miss kind of a guy in the NFL. He can block his butt off here. But when we're talking about all of the, hey, running backs, how well can you pass block? How well can you do X, Y, and Z? And Jalen Warren's getting a ton more time than Najee Harris, even as an undersized guy comparatively. It's because he can pass block more. We're talking about, hey, why in the heck would the Chargers sign Zeke Elliott when they're going towards the playoffs? Because he can pass block better than some other guys. Like, when we're talking about running backs pass blocking as something that a guy who did not grow up playing football knows a lot about now, that means to me that that running back position is really, really changing into how can you help the passing game? And that, to me, just answers our question, right? If you're asking me how the running back can help out the passing game, then, and not how they can just run the ball downhill, then you know what? It's much more of you got to just have way, way better passing offense and everything than you do rushing offense. And that's sign of the times for now until it flips back the other way. We've seen not so many years ago, we were seeing Zeke Elliott in the national championship game win the whole thing with his half shirt on. So it wasn't that long ago we were seeing that be the deal, and him getting drafted 4th overall by the Dallas Cowboys, who I have a couple things to say about in case anyone's curious, but I will leave those maybe for the end, the last 10 minutes of the podcast here. So with all that being said, Alexi, basketball. It is time to talk about some hoops here. Oklahoma State here. It's going to be a fun time, I think, with hoops. I think that, of course, I want to give credit where it's due. Women's basketball is absolutely killing it. I am trying to learn more and more and watch more and more about women's basketball so I can talk more about Cowgirl basketball, because 1, they're doing incredibly well. 2, they deserve all the support they can get. But 3, I am a guy who has coached basketball at different levels and has played a lot of basketball, a lot of pickup hoops. So I'm going to talk more about the stuff that I know about instead of guessing and being on the fringes of talking about women's basketball and kind of circling around everything except for talking about it, because I don't know that much. So call where it is here. I mean, I'm going to say we picked up our 3rd Big 12 win here against Utah this past weekend. And depending on when you're listening to this is coming out on Tuesday. But today, Oklahoma State plays at the Fertitta Center in Houston against, of course, the Houston Cougars. And last time they played in Stillwater, it didn't turn out too well. So what's your thought process on this Houston game here? Any way, shape, or form that Oklahoma State wins this one?
Well, let me start by saying we're a 22-point, at the moment, underdog, according to Vegas odds. 22-point underdog. And I think we're getting Houston at probably one of the worst times, because they are coming off a loss at home to not Iowa State, Texas Tech. A crazy ending there. I think it went to overtime. And yes, so they lost to Tech. They're coming off the loss. Usually when a team like Houston is coming off a loss, the next game is they take their anger out on a team like Oklahoma State. So I can't imagine it's going to be pretty. And I think Vegas is kind of telling us that they're going to expect us to win, expect us to lose by at least 22 points. So yeah, not feeling too hot about this game against Houston, but hey, we're one win away from tying our Big 12 win record last year. How about that?
How about that indeed? I would love to hear that. And can I ask you another trivia question? All-time record, Oklahoma State versus Houston. Any guesses who's winning the all-time record or what the all-time record is?
I'm loving the trivia. Keep it coming. I feel like this is another trick question. I feel like Oklahoma State leads the series, and I don't know how many times they've played each other. I'll be honest. I don't know the exact amount of times they've played. Can't tell you the season total. But I'll say Oklahoma State.
I can say it is Oklahoma State, 13-11.
Okay.
Now, the last matchup before 2018 came in 1964-1965 season. So, and Oklahoma State was splitting with Houston. I mean, it is 3-2 from the 56 to 57 season to the 1964-1965 season. We didn't play every single season, but Houston won a couple. We won a couple. I mean, basically, we some reason played Houston in Manhattan, Kansas in 1964-1965. And we won 75-60, but for some reason we played them at K-State. So, not really sure what all the reasoning is behind that one here, but pistolsfiringblog.com has it here with the Oklahoma State preview of the Houston matchup tonight, if you're already listening to this. And I do agree, this is one of the worst times we could face Houston. Not only are they coming off a loss, but also they just look like they are going guns a-blazing. Their record is 17-4. Their net is 3. Their points per game, they're scoring closer to 80 than we are, that's for sure. Their points per game, they're allowing 56.6 points. Our opponent's points per game, we're allowing more points than we're scoring on average. Now, we're one game above 500, but I do not think that will be true after tonight's game. In every single stat here, and I'll link this article from Marshall Scott here at the bottom of this wherever you're listening to it. It's not pretty. I mean, field goal percentage, we're less than Houston. Opponent field goal percentage, we're allowing more than Houston. 3-point percentage is just, when not one stat goes right for you, it kind of leaves me to go, well, you know what? I'm not going to pick us. Like, this isn't the upset March Madness kind of pick 'em where I'm going, man, we play with a ton of pace and they don't, or opposite. And I'm just not too hopeful against Houston, but of course I am hopeful that Houston could win the whole thing, could win the whole Big 12, could win the whole March Madness. It kind of hurts me whenever I have picked him before because they burned me. Kelvin Sampson, the former OU guy, he's not really helping out the Oklahoma State fan who's trying to pick him to win the whole thing. Go figure. So, and hey, you are the guy to hit up for March Madness picks here. So we'll have you back on here in a month or less to talk about those March Madness picks in a minute. But would you want to play for this Steve Lutz team? That's my next question here. We've seen now 21 games. He's not starting Chi-Chi Avery, the guy who's leading the team in points, or at least was before this past weekend. He's not starting him, but he is definitely moving the ball up and down the court here. Is this the guy where you'd go, yeah, I'd love to play for Steve Lutz, or would you kind of hate it?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, it's definitely a little refreshing to see a different style of play. And I'm looking at this website here. It's called Bartorvik. It kind of measures all of the metrics for a team. And it has us as the 51st team in pace. So pace of play, tempo, whatever you want to call it. So a nice about 70 possessions per game they have it at is for Oklahoma State. So that's kind of nice to see. I think I would like to play for it. I like the up and down. Of course, you got to be conditioned, but a lot of these guys, they're all Division I athletes. I imagine that's all they do is run, and they're conditioned enough for this style of offense. But you just got to be ready for it, man. You got to be ready to run up and down a game. You're going to get tired at times if there's not a whistle. I mean, that's the thing too. If there's not whistles being called and you're turning the ball over, etc., that's going to affect your offense and your defense a lot. So I kind of look back at when I still consider myself a Mizzou fan, not as much as Oklahoma State, of course, but Mizzou had Mike Anderson. They called it the 40, what they call it, there's a name for it and I'm blanking on it. Fastest 40 or something. I can't remember the exact name, but it was that kind of style of offense where it was just run and gun and you are playing defense, like pressing everything. You're just going nonstop. And, sometimes those work, sometimes they don't, but you just have to have the right players for it. And I think that's what Steve Lutz is probably trying to figure out is, okay, who fits my system here? Who can I keep for next year? And who can I bring in next year to, complete the system and what I need. So, yeah, I think it's fun. I think it's different. And hopefully Oklahoma State can get back to, the consistency. That's all we need to do is be consistent, be a top program in the Big 12 year after year.
Yeah, there's so many stats that back up the Oklahoma State team playing so much better than you would think so far. I mean, the projection from KenPom.com, and that's who I see stats from a lot, and I think try to highlight reference them as much as I can. So the offensive rating for Oklahoma State is 171st in the country, but the net rating is 4.46, which in all reality here it just isn't that great. But there's a lot of stats here where I'm going, hey, we're 3-7 in conference. We're projected to go 5-15. So can we get 2 more wins? Like, can we hit those projections up? Be even with those? We're 11-10 right now. We're on the season. We don't have a Big 12 all-conference player. We had one, I guess, on the team last year, Javon Small, who's playing his butt off for West Virginia. Sorry, I just really don't cuss that much here. But our offensive rebound percentage is number 1 in the Big 12 offensive rebound percentage. So how are we able to capitalize on some of these things here where we really get out and transition and we just run the pace out of anyone else? Home win percentage, you know what? We could be doing better, of course, but we've won 11 games. Like, I don't remember exactly where we were last year at this time, record-wise, but I don't think it was as good because, as you said, we're on pace right now to have a better win percentage in conference this year than we were last year. It does help that we are playing teams that are just worse than us in most statistics. Like, we're playing Utah, playing Colorado, we're playing Cincinnati. And last year, I forget if we played Cincinnati or not, or how many times we did, but we didn't play Utah or Colorado. I know that. They just joined the conference this year. And the Big 12 is a gauntlet every single night, night in, night out. But are we going to be one of those teams that, hey, you know what? We're facing off against Houston. We're hoping to beat them, but KenPom gives us a 2% chance to beat Houston. And KenPom also has Houston as the number 2 team in the country. So, like, of course, we're probably not going to beat them, And are we going to take care of the teams that we should beat and take care of the teams that are just not that good? Yeah, we beat Colorado. They're 0-10 in conference. They're projected to be 2-18 in conference. But we took care of business against them. We went ahead and said, you know what? Here's the door. We're going to go ahead and just absolutely see what we can do against a team like Houston. We're going to see what we can do. We're going to see how we can match up. And you know what? Kind of sucks to say. We're projected to lose every single game the rest of the way here for KenPom's rankings, but Cincinnati are projected to lose by 2. I'm not going to necessarily be the guy again here who's like really just trying to slice then dice that onion up as small as I can to bring myself to tears. Because we're also playing UCF here. We're projected to lose by 3. That's another home matchup for Oklahoma State here coming up on the 19th. And I would say any of these matchups here, Arizona State, projected to lose by 3 again, 4% chance we could win. These are 3 games here where I'm looking down the stretch going, okay, well, we're not projected to win, but if everyone shows out in Galgaraiba and really packs it and it's super rowdy and whatever adverb and adjective the marketing team's using, trying to get people in the stands and really just a bunch of students in the stands, I'm all for it because this is a team that should be shown a lot of energy and effort because we brought back 3 guys from last year's team. 2 guys who were starters last year, and 1 guy who's coming off the bench last year who's now playing some more minutes. But, I mean, Bryce Thompson, Connor Dow, great players, but Bryce was injured last year. Connor was coming off the bench. And Jamarian Keller, would he start for a bunch of other Big 12 teams? Probably not. A couple here and there, maybe. But he also was not a guy last year where you're like, oh my gosh, I would love to have him back next year. It was instead kind of the Eric Daly Jr.'s who transferred to UCLA. And, there's guys who I really wish that could have come over from last year into this year's team and just seeing how they did. But Steve Lutz was hired a little bit later in the recruiting cycle, and Chad Weiberg's tried to explain that and has explained that, I think, correctly so, as this is a guy we want. We want to get a guy here in the program who is a good guy for Oklahoma State, who's going to hang out a minute, but also really is just a good character, because Mike Boylan was such a great character for Oklahoma State as a guy that you really got to bring in the guy after him who is also the same kind of character, but it's just more of a coaching experience. And a guy who came over from Texas A&M Corpus Christi and then Western Kentucky and then Oklahoma State. He's seen winning everywhere he's been. He's at Purdue before then, recruiting Zach Hejny. So I really think this Oklahoma State team can be good. Not this year, but over the next couple, I think we can be really good. And especially if you give Lutz a whole recruiting cycle to recruit into the Big 12, especially with the ammunition to recruit guys who are immediately going to play against high-level competition their first year, and guys who go, hey, you know what? You want to play against Hunter Dickinson's of the world and show how much better you can be against these guys who are getting draft kind of consideration. Come on over. Come to Stillwater. We're 60 miles if you're driving the speed limit up from Oklahoma City, watching the Thunder play, and Sam Presti's in the building some nights, right? So we've seen how Oklahoma State can recruit guys. Now, do you think of the guys you've seen Oklahoma State play for Oklahoma State here? And Cade Cunningham, former number 1 overall pick, and hey, congrats on the All-Star nod, Cade. But also we've seen Juwan Evans, we've seen Marcus Smart. Which one of these guys, or name another guy I haven't mentioned, do you think would play the best under the coach Steve Lutz era?
Yeah, I think Marcus Smart would be kind of fun to watch in this era because he had that defense to him, and it feels like he, could run and play a lot too, like on the offensive side. So I think when you have this style, you also have to have guys who can defend at a high rate, and Marcus Smart, we all know how he can defend. He's awesome. So yeah, he'd be my pick. I think that'd be fun to watch him in this type of system for sure.
I think the easy answer is, Cade Cunningham, who's a number 1 overall pick, he's all-star, et cetera, et cetera. But the basketball knowers, no, it'd be Marcus Smart, because Cade's going to be good no matter how you play it. Like he'd be good if it was just showing up playing pickup tomorrow outside. He'd be good in any gym. Now, of course, any of these guys would be good in any gym. But Marcus Smart's going to be good, get up and down the court and playing his ass off on defense, and really getting after it, flipping off some fans in the stands, or at least, telling them what's up, especially if they're Texas Tech fans there and they're flipping off Oklahoma State fans. And there's a reason why we don't like Texas Tech. They copy everything Oklahoma State does, including having their fans get mad at players. Although I don't think that's an Oklahoma State thing. I think that's just them. I think they started that. Hopefully we don't copy that part of it. But they definitely copied the mascot there with the Xerox machine. It didn't turn out the same way. I mean, the guy's got a mustache that makes him look like he's, what is it, the Looney Tunes guy, So I think this will be, even though his head's much bigger than the rest of his body, definitely looks like much more of a man who's a sheriff around town.
Absolutely.
Than a cartoon. Well, last question here I'll get you out on is, do you know the difference in age between Joe Biden and Jerry Jones? That's the last trivia question I have.
Okay. Again, I feel like this is a very trick question. I'm going to say, are they the same age? There's a trick to it, and they're not actually a difference. They're actually the same age.
They are the same age. Yeah, they're both 82.
Oh, okay.
I mean, one man was not retained by his political party to run for president again. And the other man is in charge of a $9 billion team that he seems to be running straight to the ground. So I'm sorry, Dad. You're a huge Dallas Cowboy fan. No listen this long in the episode. I'm sorry for any Dallas Cowboy fan. But once I got invited to a Facebook group of saying boycott the team, I said, you know what? Chance we need to look into more of this Jerry Jones, Joe Biden deal and see what the age difference is. So I feel like both of them are talking kind of at the same level here in amount of competency every single day. And one seems to be wanting to be in front of the TV every single day. And the other one seems to be going, I could fade away and to be known as one of the presidents who did what I did. I'm not trying to make this a political thing, of course. So I'm really just trying to say, Jerry Jones, hire a real GM. That's really the point of this. This is not a pro or anti Joe Biden. This is a pro Dallas Cowboys, $9 billion most valuable team in entire sports world. Hire a real general manager.
Hire a real GM and just let them make some decisions. I mean, come on, man. Like, you have an organization that people will, if you were 0-16, people will still show up and watch your team. Like, you're going to have the freaking support. Get a real team in there. Like, the Jerry Jones stuff is crazy to me. Like, I really, it blows my mind that, I mean, since I can ever remember, they've never made it to a conference championship game. Okay, I could have said Super Bowl, but I say conference championship game, because how in the world can Dallas not make it to a conference championship game all these years? Well, maybe it starts with a guy named Jerry Jones.
Well, the last time the Dallas Cowboys won a playoff game, you want to take a guess at that?
Man, I feel like it was, yeah. So I remember the year they lost to the Packers, because that was like one of their best chances they had of getting far, when they lost to the Packers against Rodgers. Man, it was not last year. They lost in the first round as a 2 seed. 2016? Maybe? Nah, I feel like it had to be sooner than that, but I'll say 2016.
So it's actually 2023 when they beat Tampa Bay.
Okay.
It's your wild card game, so it's a little bit of a trick question again here. I'm really just hyping up the trick question so here we get onto this.
You're getting me.
But the Dallas Cowboys are the team to have not made it to a divisional championship. Of all NFL teams, every single team has made it to a divisional championship game, has won a divisional championship game now. It's the Washington Commanders/Redskins won it. Also, the Dallas Cowboys have 4 wins in the playoffs between February 3rd, 2000 and February 3rd, 2025.
Okay.
4 wins in 25 years. You know?
So they won. Yeah. I'm looking at their playoff history right now. So they beat Tampa Bay, but before that, the last time they had won was the 2018 playoffs when they beat the Seahawks. And then what I was thinking, the last time they had won before that was 2014 against the Lions. So we're talking 2014. So let's just say from 2014 to 2023. So we'll give that like 10 years. They have won a total of 3 playoff games. That's all been wild card games. So anytime they get to the division round, yeah, they're an automatic loss.
Yeah, they just don't play well. That's it. You know, they're not a good team. They're just not good overall.
That Packers,
though.
2016. Yeah. 2016, they played the Packers. They lost that game. I think that was the one where Dez caught it. They lost that game by 3, and they were out in the first round because that was their first game. They had a first round bye that year. So, man, that was their chance.
Well, you know who is good? Cade Cunningham. Tonight, he got 22. You know, we're recording this here on Monday, February 3rd, I should say. But tonight, Cade had 22 points, 15 assists, and he's been averaging 31 points, 5 rebounds, 10 assists since being named an All-Star. So,
yeah, man, he's been
awesome. Cade.
That's great.
Shout out to Cade.
That's
and everyone knows here, if you've been watching this long and tuning in, I'm a huge Thunder fan. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Great namesake there. His last name Alexander.
Amazing last name. Did he get it from you?
Right.
Did he get it from you?
I'm not going to say he was older, but it's me. So I'm going to say he was older. No, I don't think he did. I think we'd be doing a little bit different podcast here if Shea and I actually had their actual same last name. But he's leading the league in points per game here at 32.5. So
I saw
Thunder just blew out the Bucks tonight too.
I was going to say the bottom of my screen, I saw the score and I'm like, wait, that has to be a joke, right? Because there's no way. And it was the third, and now mind me here. It was the third quarter, and it said like 106 to 75. I was like, what? There's no way that's the score right now. So yeah, what a win for the Thunder. Thunder, they did so well tonight. Fun fact here, trivia. How about this? Have you seen the box score? Like
no
points by quarter. Points by quarter.
No.
Okay. Tell me so they scored 125 the entire game. Tell me how many points you think they scored in the fourth quarter, the Thunder. entire fourth quarter.
What's they scored 125 in the games? Well, they had to score 30 something, 34.
In the fourth quarter, you're thinking?
I mean, I'm thinking this might be a little bit of like I mean, they scored 125. So like
So they did so
yeah,
well.
I mean they had to score like 25 or something at least, right?
That's what I would think, yeah. So they scored so much. They basically scored about 40 a quarter, 39, 39, 38. And in the fourth quarter, a whopping 9 points. That's your Oklahoma City Thunder.
Shout out. That's a great way to end the podcast here. Any other shout outs you want to have for your Deep Pockets bet on X? How are the bets going?
Yeah, we've been okay. I mean, I hit a little bit of a cold stretch, but lately it's been better. And not really much going on tonight. The college basketball slate was kind of quiet. Kansas just crushed Iowa State, of course, but next week or tomorrow we'll have some games. There's a lot of games tomorrow going on, so I'll have to look and see what looks good for me. But at the moment, nothing. We're getting ready for March though. March is coming.
March is coming. March. We don't sleep in March, right? Is that the
we don't sleep in March. We sleep in May. He says.
I sleep in May. Okay. I knew I'd be messing up somehow, some way. Well, the Alexi here on the podcast tonight. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll catch you again soon. If you're not already, follow at the CGA Tour on Twitter/X, Instagram, wherever you listen to podcasts. Definitely subscribe down below here if you're watching this on YouTube and enjoying seeing both of our very beautiful, handsome faces. And if you're not, we're on YouTube. So head on over that way. If you're listening this long in the podcast, we'd love to see you join the chat here. And Alexi, thanks so much again. We'll catch you guys again soon.